Ujai. Welcome to the Tassanet and Sobek experience. Real talk, real time, where their experience is your medicine. Welcome to the experience, y'all. We missed you, but we also want to know how was your day. Well, we're sure. But today we're going to talk about a very serious topic. We're going to talk about an old topic, but yet it remains the same. We're going to talk about HIV in the African community. And when I say the community, I'm talking not just the United States, but the global world, but the globe as well. As you know, recently on Facebook, Instagram, we have the idea of South African government intentionally infecting our people with HIV. Now, whether that's true or not, I haven't looked at the facts. But before we get into the topic of today, before we get into the experience, let's kick a few facts from our queen about the difference between HIV and AIDS.
Yes, we are on it. HIV stands for human immunovirus. Human immunodeficiency virus.
There you go.
Is what HIV stands for.
And AIDS is acquired.
And AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So there is a difference between HIV and AIDS. HIV is when the T cells are 200, or when T cells are 200 and above. When you're diagnosed with AIDS, that means your T cells have dropped below 200.
So when you say T cells, for people who may not understand it, but when we talk about T cells, we're talking about the white blood cells, the healthy cells.
Correct.
When you understand the facts of HIV, you're looking at viral count. Viral count is how fast the virus itself reproduces. And as my queen had stated before with the facts, anything that's 200 and below is AIDS. 250 and above is HIV. Because it seems to be when people hear HIV, they don't hear HIV, they immediately hear AIDS. And that's a sure sign of a brother and sister, man and woman, who has not educated themselves in knowing this. And I say that because 2010, November 23rd, Houston, Texas, I received the news of being HIV positive. Yes, that I am. You look at me and you're like, brother, I didn't know. Exactly. And you know why you don't know? Not because I haven't told you, it's because I become proactive in my condition. I can go and I can tell you a brief story. When I first found out, I was numb. You feel me? I didn't have the opportunity to be mad or scared. I didn't look for who to blame because immediately I knew I was at fault. That's the first thing about being HIV positive, is to accept the accountability that is your actions. Not someone made you shoot a needle, which is one way to contract the virus. No one made me have anal or vaginal sex, which is another way to contract the virus. And I say anal and vaginal because...
Okay, what kind? Is it protected or unprotected, King?
Of course unprotected. That's how you get it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Some people might take that literally, like, if I just have sex. But it's if you have unprotected sex.
Thank you for that clarity, Queen. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. So
go ahead, finish your story.
But I wanted to say that, but to be heterosexual, black, man, and HIV positive comes with two things, the two S's, stigma and shame. And today, we're going to talk about that. And today, somebody's out there who need to see this, and it's not you, it's somebody else. Because HIV and AIDS do not discriminate who they visit and who they live with.
That's right. I am too. I am a woman that is living and thriving with HIV. As a matter of fact, this month makes 21 years that I have been living and thriving. Oh man, I remember when I was diagnosed 21 years ago, and I just could not believe it. I was totally in shock. And I was just distraught, to be honest with you, because I'm a black woman. I'm a heterosexual black woman at that.
Yes.
Now, I knew about HIV. I knew how HIV was transmitted. But I didn't think I was at risk, because the targeted risk groups that they were talking about were men who have sex with men, substance abuse users, persons that inject drugs, and I didn't fit any of those categories.
I think a lot of us don't really.
That's true. A
get
lot of
with
us
that.
don't.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of us don't. A lot of people feel invincible, you know,
Right.
particularly our young folk.
True.
And
True.
that's the
They
thing.
don't think that it can happen to them.
Exactly. I mean, and it's not, and I'm going to say this for the sake of the general topic, you know, it's not just black folks, but, you know, it's everybody. You know, they have that mindset that it's not going to happen to me, because I had that mindset.
Right.
You know, even though I was rolling the dice each and every time I had sex with a woman and man. Let that marinate. When I had sex with a woman and man. And when I mean man, I'm talking about, you know, dudes who look like me, also transgender, you know, because that was just my thing. You know, I identify as a heterosexual man. Some people may say I'm sexually fluid. You know, some may say I'm SGL, same gender lover, you know. But in all honesty, you know, I was being me, because before there was Sobek, there was chaos. Before I settled down before I discovered who I was, there was chaos. Now, as my queen has said earlier, she was distraught. For me, like I said, I was numb. And when I found out the diagnosis, my mother was there. So I had to be strong for her. But immediately, and I would say immediately about 5 minutes afterwards, I realized that life got real. Shit got real. For me, HIV, and for some, you know, it was a wake-up call, a gut check, because I was doing all the reckless behaviors. I wasn't a drug user. I wasn't, you know, out there like that. I was an ordinary dude out there partying, doing my thing, you know, living life to the fullest. You know, as we are taught as men, you are taught to conquer as much booty as possible.
Right.
And that's the kick. When I tell people that I'm HIV positive, they assume that I'm gay. I contracted it from a woman whose ex-husband was an intravenous drug user. And that's the kick. And when I tell people that, it changes the whole story. But HIV gave me a slap in the face of responsibility. And for a while, even though I was faking and fronting, I was feeling insecure. I was angry, bitter. I was hard on people. I was putting a front, like, you know, how people go to church, or how people even come to, you know, how conscious people do it. Put on a mask, you know, including teachers who, you know, teach our people, and yet they're not dealing with their own stuff. You know, being a wounded healer. You feel what I'm saying? So HIV, for a moment and for a brief moment, put my life on pause. It stopped it completely. And I had to figure out a new direction. And that was in 2010. Now in 2019, 9 years later, for lack of a better phrase, I'm kicking ass and taking names, man. I'm an HIV advocate. You know, I am the face, like my queen. I'm the face of HIV. I'm the face of brothers who was on the DL, and I believe that because of the population of the DL, that a lot of our women, black women, were infected. Over 63%
That's true.
of our women over 63% of our women, and this was back in 2016, are infected, living, and thriving with the HIV virus. Over 63% of black women. And if that's 63% of black women, you can imagine the percentage of black men who are struggling with their identity, who are struggling in fear, who are running from the shame, who know they have this virus, and yet, some of them don't take care of themselves and some do, affecting our women. Same thing with our children, because another way that our children can contract HIV is through breast milk, and if the mother is pregnant and not knowing of her diagnosis, which is the case when you look at the conditions of our people in single family homes. It's not taken away from the mother, but the aspect that, it's not, yeah, it is. It is. I think that some women today know the story, but like most folks, they have the idea it's not going to happen to me. What do you say about that, Queen?
Well, I do want to give like a little correction about the women.
Please do.
So women who are HIV positive and are not on HIV medication, they have a 30% chance of transmitting the virus to their child. So if you are HIV positive and you are a woman and you are not on HIV meds, it is very important that you take your medication, because not only is it about you, but it's about the child that you are carrying. Now, I am happy to say that in Los Angeles County, there have not been any babies born with HIV. And that is truly a blessing. And that is a blessing that is due to the advancement of the HIV medication that has come along. So we have so many medications that are available for people to take. But I wanted to talk about, you had mentioned black men.
Yes.
And men who are bisexual, men who are gay. 88% of the HIV is among men, and 52% are among black, gay, and bisexual men. So ladies, if you got a man and you think your man is cheating and you think he might be cheating with a woman, honey, you better best believe he might not be cheating with a woman. He might be cheating with his homeboy. You never know.
Exactly.
And women used to always ask me, well, how do I know, my man is on a DL? You don't know.
Can I speak on that?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. You don't know. You will never know. You can guess and speculate.
Right.
But until that brother disclosed, you don't know anything. And that's vice versa with women, because they're fine, beautiful black women out there, but beautiful women, period, but beautiful black women out there who may not know, brothers.
That's right.
It takes more than a condom, brothers. It takes discipline, brothers. No matter how fine that woman is, brother. Or women, brother. Because HIV don't have a face. Only time when you see the face of HIV and AIDS is the face of someone who hasn't properly maintained themselves. So see, the one thing about HIV is it's preventable.
Yes,
and
it
if
is.
you do contract
Say that again.
preventable.
Yes,
I'll
it
say
is.
it slower. Preventable.
Absolutely.
And if you have the event that you contracted, it's maintainable. Mm-hmm. Your life is not over. And fortunately for us in this time and age, when HIV came out in '83, when people were dying left and right, when gay men in New York were dying left and right, when people had speculations that it came from the green monkey bite, I don't understand who goes around being bit by a monkey, but that's what the media tells you. You feel me? But in this time and age, the medicines that I take, get better and better. And the worst thing, one of the side effects is with a lot of medicine that how it affects the kidneys and liver, which takes out the toxins in our body.
Right.
The medicines today are alleviating that. No matter, even if it's man-made, they're made, as my doctor would tell me, they made to work and operate cleaner. Now, the one thing that we haven't talked about is the mental aspect of it.
Oh, yes.
To be a black man, we already catching hell in this world. You know, we already treated as a second-class citizen. Our women have more props than us, even though people are going to argue with that. But our women,
Yes, some people will argue with that. However, in this day and time, women are not being talked about as it used to be. When I was in HIV activism, I'm not as active as I used to be, but like 10 years ago, I was very active, and so we had a lot of services for women. Now, women are not even thought of, you know. So, but we still are here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We are still here. Women are still getting infected. Brothers are still getting infected. So the
Yes.
point of the matter is that HIV is here. Now, how are you going to not get it? That's
Right.
what I want to know.
which leads to the conversation. The conversation has to be taken, you know, has to evolve, has to elevate, I would say. First time we met, you took me to a meeting with women, and the black women, let's keep it 100.
Yeah.
They ignored me
Yes,
because
they
they
did.
talked about the black man, because, you know, and to me,
Right.
that showed me that, you know, those who were involved, and I know names and I remember faces,
Right.
but I'm not going to say it for the sake of one. I'm not talking about character defamation, but the fact is, I just think that they fake. But when they excluded the man out the conversation, that's when I knew the conversation was about money.
Right.
It's all about the money. So now, the black man who is living with HIV, the black man who is afraid to disclose, the black man who's ashamed to disclose, because we already got, what's that dude, Charlie Sheen,
Right.
you know, and the only reason why he did it is because he was being blackmailed.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
But the conversation has to evolve.
Yes, it does.
The conversation has to be 100, honest. The conversation has to be without separation. It has to be unified, because we're in this
Absolutely.
together. We're our people, African people, black people are Moors. So a lot of my brothers who are Moors will say, you know, black don't identify us, but for simplicity, black does identify us in this society. We really need to be honest, have honest conversations. We talk about revolution, you know, with the armed revolution, which we're not ready for. Politically, we're not ready because we have people operating within this system that's not designed for us. Economically, quote unquote, niggas is too scared to share. So we have to evolve our conversation that includes us. But speaking of HIV, it's affecting us because personally, I feel it was geared towards us. Because, quote unquote, we are a so-called minority of the world, and we're not. You feel me on that? But the mental aspect of HIV is the kicker for men and for women.
And for women too.
No doubt, no doubt. But for men, you know, it's a shameful thing because we're supposed to be on our game. For men, we're supposed to be in charge. For men, we're not supposed to feel. For men, we're supposed to be invincible. For men, we have impossible standards put on us.
I agree, particularly when it comes to black men. I can't speak for Latino men. I can't speak for white men, but I do know about the stigma and the psychological effects of when you are HIV positive, especially when you are newly diagnosed.
It's a beast, man.
It's a beast because a lot of people still revert back to, oh my God, this, you know, I got it and I'm going to die.
Right.
When we have been in this thing for like over 30 years and you're not going to die, it's based on your mental aspect.
Exactly.
However, I'm not taken away from that because it can be traumatic, you know, for some people. I know for me, the first thought that came in my mind 21 years ago when I was diagnosed was like, who was going to want me? Because I felt tainted. And I've heard that from a lot of women that I've talked to. They felt tainted. They felt, they didn't feel clean. They didn't feel like themselves. But it takes time, and it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel, you know, a little depressed. That's why it's very important when you are diagnosed with a chronic illness such as HIV that you get into some type of support system, a support group, therapy, whatever you have to do to get your mind right and to know that HIV is not going to kill you unless you stay in that depressive state of mind and or you don't take care of yourself.
I want to interrupt you, Queen, so let's put a personal touch on it. So for you, when did self-care really start?
Self-care for me started 2 years ago after I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed in 1998. In the year August of 2000 is when I was able to make it to my first support group. And I have to be honest with you.
Be honest. Be honest.
I have to be very honest. When I was first diagnosed, I hated men. I did. Because I was like, and I'm just going to be raw, y'all.
Keep
Niggas
it real,
ain't
man.
shit.
Keep it real.
That's exactly how I felt. And it wasn't until I got to my first support group in August of 2000 that I seen people that looked like me. I seen people that was living. I seen people that was smiling. I seen people that was like enjoying life. And that support group changed my outlook. It changed my perspective on how I looked at HIV. It changed how I changed how I looked at myself. Because on an honest tip, when I acquired HIV, I was a woman that had low self-esteem. I was my self-esteem and my self-worth was to the floor, honey. And so when I was diagnosed, I felt like I was underneath the ground. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because
I've been there.
I didn't feel good about myself. And I'm just gonna be real honest. A lot of times we engage in unprotected sex because we trying to fill the void.
I want to say that again because I was in that same boat. When I was diagnosed with HIV, the fact is that I was at a low point in my life, no direction. Mm-hmm. On a spiritual tip, I felt that prompting that I was in for a change. Right. And it was an ill feeling. Women have that intuition.
Right, we do.
Brothers call it mother wit. They call it mother wit. But brothers, we have it too. But for the fact is that we think it's a feminine attribute, we call it a gut. We call it, we don't want to say intuition. We don't want to say I got a feeling. We say it was in our gut. I got a hunch. But like my queen, I had to ask. I was low self-esteem. I had body image issues. I was dealing with, rejection of women. I just came out of a bad marriage. And to get this news, it affected me to the nth degree. Right. And like the queen was talking, my aspect was, I'm about to die. Right. For 5 minutes, I'm going to say this, and this real talk. Right. For 5 minutes, I gave up on myself. For 5 minutes, I had no hope. For 5 minutes, I didn't give a damn. I stopped caring.
Listen, y'all.
In 5 minutes, I felt I want to go in the middle of traffic and stand in front of traffic and get hit by a bus. Because it was the clinic where I was at, it was a busy street, But the first thing that got me was my mother was there. Wow. And had I did those things, which I wanted to do for those 5 minutes, my mother, that cost would have not affected me, it would have affected my mother. Right. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was a serious point. A lot of people always ask me, hey man, how you able to tell that? Because when you reach a point in your life, and not just HIV, there's going to come a point in your life where all the trauma, all the crap that's happened to you, you're going to have to stand at that crossroad like Robert Johnson did and make a deal with the devil. Yes, yes. But I'm going to say I stood at the crossroads, as Bone Thugs and Harmony would talk about, and I chose life. I knew immediately after I went through those 5 minutes of hell that if I chose to live, it wasn't going to be easy, but it was going to be worth it. And like the queen, my empress, my beloved, I found support in a shrink that didn't last long because then she said I was diagnosed intermediate anger issues and bipolar depression. She gave me no hope. She just gave me medicine. Wow. So it wasn't until 4 years later, dealing with this, that I found African spirituality. That I came to this place we know as the Karash, Unity Center of African Spiritual Science. I'm going to give the Karash props on that, because being involved in living African, being involved in embracing myself, not only as a divine entity and energy, but as a human being, I've developed African thought, and that was the most freeing thought. I went to church. I was a Mormon. I've been a Christian, Mormons are Christians, but when I would tell people that I was HIV positive, people would treat me differently. I had a job. They moved me from one place and put me somewhere way out in bumfuck Egypt. I've had my own mother, and I love my mother dearly, but because she was uneducated, when I took a sip of water and I offered her my water when she was thirsty, she took her finger and wiped around the tip of it. And she felt bad about it, but it made me feel bad about it. But at the same time, that single moment inspired me to teach about being HIV positive, particularly men. My focus is brothers. Like my queen focus is the sisters. And together we have the Tassanet and Sobek experience. But independently, we have our own passions. And for me, my passion is the black man. And particularly the black man who has issues, not just HIV, but PTSD. HIV is just a small part. You feel me? Right. It's a small part of what's happening with us. It's a small part. For you, it might be alcohol. For some brothers, it might be drug addiction. It might be addiction to women, sex. It might be addiction, anger management, things that, people think are not, how can I say, as they say in the law of court, a path of evidence, a line of evidence. So HIV, the biggest thing why I wanted to do this show, and then Queen agrees, it's the aspect of the mental, because the physical is easy. But like most women, she says, they're being victimized even by by men who are HIV negative.
Yes.
And that's some dumb, and and I've seen it at mixers. So HIV is an issue that we need to deal with. And even in our community with our young, we live in South Central LA. We live in an area called SPA 6. What does SPA mean, baby?
SPA 6 stands for Service Planning Area, because Los Angeles County in itself is huge. I think we have about 40 million people in Los Angeles County alone. So because Los Angeles County is so broad and large, we have to break it up into different spas.
And our spa that we live in,
yes,
it's
our
the biggest
spa
spa
is SPA 6,
yes.
And it black people make up 9% of the Los Angeles County population, yet we are disproportionately impacted by HIV, by STIs, by obesity, by anything that's negative. I'm just gonna put it like that.
Yeah.
But we're gonna focus on HIV like we're talking about. But HIV black people in LA County are disproportionately affected by it.
Exactly.
And that's why we want to talk about this, because we wanted to bring awareness that HIV has not gone away. It's still here.
It's very much still here.
It's still here. I'm sorry. The thing is that, as my king was talking about, the stigma, the psychological effects of HIV, you can overcome it. But like I said, through support, you gotta have a support system.
Got to.
Because you can't do this alone. You gotta have somebody. If it's your best friend, tell somebody. You know what I'm saying? And you'd be surprised the people that support you will go with you to the doctor. Because I remember when I didn't tell my father. My mother told my father, because I was so afraid to tell my dad. Because my father used to always have this saying. He was like, baby, he said, I love you. He said, I want you to protect yourself at all times. Because these niggas out here, they ain't gonna be honest with you. And I'm just saying how my father was, right?
Yes, yes.
And so when I found out that I was HIV positive 21 years ago, I was so ashamed because my father would always tell me, baby, protect yourself. So when my father found out, he was mad, he was very upset, but eventually, he went with me to my first doctor's appointment, and I was so blessed. And so I am very blessed that my immediate family was very supportive. And then I could say, my cousins and them, they know about it. We don't talk about it,
Yeah,
but
that's what everybody.
they was supportive. They didn't, and if they did talk about me in a negative way, honey, they didn't say it to my face. But the point of the matter is, it's about having support, because you can overcome the psychological effects of feeling stigmatized, because there's some people that's just going to be ignorant all the way around, and they choose to stay ignorant.
It's a culture.
Because there's no way in the world, like in 2019, we have these smartphones that you cannot pull up what's the difference between HIV and AIDS, or how HIV is transmitted and acquired.
That's right. I'm glad you made it through there, though, baby.
I am. I'm glad I made it through.
And I want to speak on the aspect that if you are alone, because my experience, 4 years of by myself, of figuring it out, 4 years of, people actually, particularly black women and women, but specifically black women, when I disclosed to them, black women who were negative, when I disclosed to them that I was HIV positive, I've had mixed reviews, but I expect that, because some things are out of people's vibe to cope with. Tassanet's the first sister that I ever dated who's positive. And I'm going to be very frank with you. It's comfortable. And when I mean comfortable, I'm not talking about it's an easy way out, but the aspect that someone can relate to me. Someone can talk to me. Someone can, support me when I don't have support from without. But that's not the reason why that I love Tassanet. I love Tassanet because she's Tassanet.
Oh, thank you.
And being a couple who happen to be being a couple with each person is HIV positive, well, for lack of for irony or oxymoronic value, it's incredible. I've dated women who were negative and they still are negative. I married women who were negative and they still are negative, because I want to speak to the brothers once again. If you are positive, grab a pair, brother. Ain't getting out of this.
Right.
Your life is at stake, and the life of others. I'm not here to preach, because I am a living example every day. I'm from the South, y'all, so I say every day that I live this life honestly. And it takes time. It takes work. And if you punk out, dude, that's on you. You can't blame the system. You can't blame that dude you slept with at the bookstore. You can't blame that chick you met at the club or whatever, grocery store, bookstore, whatever people front. Your life is in danger, as well as the life of others. And if you are conscious and hiding, that's not ma'at. And those thoughts go through my head every day. So I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to me. Every day I talk to me. Every day in my meditations. And it's just not HIV. It's dealing with PTSD. It's dealing with depression. I'm a wounded healer. That's the life of a wounded healer who happens to be an empath. That's why. But back to my queen. To have someone support me who overstands and don't treat me like I'm a victim. Because a lot of people who are HIV positive, men and women, black, white, Asian, straight, LGBTQIA, and whatever else follows that, binary thought, HIV is like dope. It's the great equalizer. It's going to get you where you stand. It's going to get you where you at. And most of the time when HIV affects somebody, it's not where they should be.
Right. Absolutely. And I want to say, for the ladies.
Teach, queen, teach.
You can live. If you are HIV positive and you are newly diagnosed, you can live. It's your choice to live. It is your choice to live beyond the pain. I know it can be difficult. That's why support is so important. And I am a peer advocate. And so for those individuals who do not have anybody that they can go to, you can always contact me. You can contact me on my Facebook, Tasanet Infrared Mary E.T. That's Tasanet. I almost forgot how to spell my name. Tasanet, Tasanet, Infrared, Nfrt, Mary E.T., Meriiti. And you can also contact me through my email, which is tasanetmaryet at gmail.com. But yes, ladies, you can live with this and you can thrive. Honey, let me tell you, there are so many women that I have inspired, that I have impacted. They have gone back to school. They have children. And yes, you can have healthy babies.
Yes, you can.
You can have healthy babies
Yes,
without the child being HIV infected. So HIV is just a small part of who you are. That's what I want you guys to understand. For those of you who are positive, HIV is just a small part. It's not the whole you.
It isn't.
And for those of you who are not HIV positive, stop with the stigma.
Exactly.
Learn it. Learn how HIV is transmitted and acquired. Stop assuming that you can look at a person and tell that they're HIV positive. You cannot. You can only know by getting tested.
Exactly. Can I say something?
Yes.
And I want to add too, stop being afraid to get tested. Get tested.
That's the only way you're gonna know.
Get tested.
You have to get tested.
And if you remain to be ignorant, that's on you. Because if you ignorant in front of me, I'ma check you. If you want to call it a fag disease, I'ma check you. If you want to call it a gay disease, I'ma check you. If you want to crack on somebody that has it, I'ma check you. Because HIV doesn't make us a victim. And I want to talk to the ladies. Fellas, you can leave the room or you can sit there and you can take it. But do not settle. Don't settle for some low vibrating brother who's probably sitting with you right now.
Right.
Don't give up your money. Don't let them move in. Don't let them play with your head. Don't let them attack you mentally. Because I've seen it. And believe me, if it wasn't against the law, I would put hands on those dudes. Because, you insulting a sister who's already trying to work her way out of it. And shame on you, brother.
Right, absolutely.
Shame on you, brother. Brothers who are out there, people who are advocating HIV. Stop taking people's money. I've heard stories. I've met people. Stop trying to talk about HIV and sell your stuff, your holistic medicine, your jewelry. Stop preying on women who want to help you. I know brothers who do that, and I'm sure some sisters do it too. That's the thing about being HIV positive. Y'all made it into a money thing, straight up. And we'll leave it at that. But we want to drop y'all a few facts to go research HIV. For me, I'm going to say two. TheBody.com. If you want to know HIV, that's correct information.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, if you're not scared of the government, which I'm not, you can go to the CDC.com. That is the Center for Disease Control.
CDC.gov.
Thank you, baby. Yes. See, I'm CDC.gov. Go to that.
Also, you can do Poz.com.
Cheats.
And you can also do HIV.gov. And so as we wrap up, I just want to say, baby, I love you.
I love you too, baby.
Because Sobek is the second guy that I have been with who is positive.
And I'm the best, right?
And yes, you are the best.
Get that out
there. And so as we close, so funny, baby. As we close, know your worth. Know who you are. And as we say in our Kemetic language, know thyself.